talk about something that I've been wanting to kind of talk about, but I felt like it's taboo. So today we're gonna dive into it. I'm telling y'all right now, viewer discretion is advised. Y'all may think what y'all want to think. Y'all can say what y'all want to say, but everything that I'm about to say is definitely factual. Factual. All right? Factual. And and I had to start the live over because it was having some issues. So today I wanted to come back. Live was having too much issues. It was just like not going. All right. So basically where I was at was this. There was a 14-year-old boy, we'll see you, Mel, who they called Roland Doe, or he had another name that they called him, Robbie Manahan. All right, y'all can look this up for yourself if y'all choose to. All right, so we got to start right here. This is where it starts at. So this boy was exhibiting paranormal spiritual attacks. You know what I'm saying? Uh, they say his behavior had changed and a bunch of other things. But this hospital right here was the primary setting and inspiration for the movie The Exorcist. All right, this was the primary location. So in 1949, in the spring, in the Alexian Brothers Hospital, in the psychiatric wing of this hospital, 14-year-old Roland Doe was exorcised. Let's say that. All right. So how the story goes is that he was exhibiting signs of, behavioral issues. Marks was appearing on his body, stuff like that, and his parents didn't know why. So where they tried to have, basically they tried to have some people come in and help him. Nobody could help him. So they reached out to a group of priests. After it had got so bad, they reached out to a group of priests. And the priests were from a nearby university in St. Louis. So they reached out to them and they said that they would be able to help the boy. And they figured it would take like a month, maybe a little bit longer, but like a month to help him out. All right. Because they took him to a hospital and they gave him medical psychiatric tests in Washington, D.C., and none of that had gave them any answers. And nobody could explain the boy's behavioral changes. They couldn't explain why he was going to trances or speaking unknown languages and had physical scratches and marks appearing on his body. So in 1949, they took him to the Alexian Brothers Hospital where they ran some more tests and they were seeing the same results. Like the boy was still having these issues. He was still like floating up out of his bed. He was still like, exhibiting like possession. So at the hospital, they started the exorcism. And they stopped the exorcism on Easter Monday, April 18th, after basically something signaled that it was over. So now this location today, this specific room and psychiatric wing where the exorcism took place was permanently sealed by the church and the hospital. All right, they closed it down because people would keep talking about like seeing stuff. The staff was like they would see ghosts or they would hear things that ain't supposed to be there and people would be acting crazy, right? Now, this is a mental hospital for the criminally insane and whatnot as well. So, right, you would expect certain stuff to be kind of crazy, but they were seeing like way more crazier stuff at this hospital. So, long story short, the boy ended up it didn't work. The exorcism didn't work. So, they had one option because the parents basically didn't want their son to continue to live like this, bro, and be, possessed. So they made a decision to try one more time, and if that worked, then it worked. If not, they figured it would be better for him to be unalived, to unalive the little boy, because there was no other way to stop it. And they felt like it would just keep growing and growing and going and going. So they made the decision to take this boy into a neighborhood where there wasn't a lot of people, because it was always a lot of screaming, a lot of yelling when they was doing the exorcisms. So they found a neighborhood that was pretty much down the street from a cemetery. In case anything would happen and the boy needed to be unalive, they would just unalive him and take him to the cemetery. All right, true story. So that's the basis that I needed y'all to know right now. So, all right, that's the basis, right? So the little boy was still showing signs of possession, and they figured, all right, well, it didn't work this time. It didn't work this time at the hospital. We're going to try one more time. So they took the boy to this local community that was like down the street from the cemetery. In case anything should happen, they could just bury the boy, and that'd be the end of it, and nobody would know. All right. So now we get into actually what's going on. So a lot of people never wanted to talk about this story. They didn't want people, to know about this. It was always like, hidden. And I'm going to be honest, I understand why they didn't want this story getting out. All right, but it did anyway, because it was only talked about within the family. And basically nobody, bro, it was like, if you spoke about this, bruh, basically the family would be like, you're not part of the family. For real, for real. So what I'm saying to y'all is actually something that happened. This is not like shock value. This is not for the faint, bro. This is actually something that happened. So for those that still here, make sure y'all hit that sub button. Make sure y'all hit that like, because I will be posting this video. And I got a feeling, bro, it's a lot of people are going to say what they're going to say, but I'm here to tell y'all the truth. All right, so with that being said, this is a real story that happened between my grandmother, my uncle, and some other family members. All right, so my grandmother was a very kind person. You know what I'm saying? Would help people and try and like, just like how most grandmothers is, keep the family together, stuff like that. Well, there was an uncle in the family who they took in, basically. They took him in and, helped him, all that. And the story goes that my grandmother was looking to move. So she was looking to move from where they was originally staying to a different neighborhood. And they had only a few options back then where they could live. So at this time, for a black family to be like owning a house was kind of like, that's what the goal was. The goal was to own a house. So they end up deciding to move to the community. The community they moved to had a house, and it was located on Rosebud. That's the name of the street, right? The name of the street is Rosebud. I'm gonna see if I can pull up a picture real quick. The name of the street was Rosebud. I'm finna pull it up. All right. Now, Rosebud was in pretty much like, I ain't gonna say it was like an abandoned community, but it was very quiet, and, not too much people paid attention to what really was going on in the neighborhood. It was just like, whatever. So this is the actual house, right? So in this house is where those priests took the little boy after it failed at the hospital. They took him to this house because this house had a basement, as you can see. It got a garage. It's got a basement right here. This house had a basement where when you went to the basement, you really couldn't hear as much as if you was upstairs. So they began to perform the ritual again to exorcise the little boy in this house that was located down the street from a cemetery, just in case something should happen. You know what I'm saying? They could just take him to the cemetery, and that'd be the end of it. Plus, nobody would know because of where the house was in the neighborhood. All right. Well, my grandmother at this time was looking to move, and she had 7 kids, right? My dad was the youngest. So they end up finding a house, and they was like, oh, this cool, we want to move. So they end up moving, and this was the house that they moved into. All right. So when they moved into this house, nobody told my grandmother that an exorcism had took place at this house. Nobody told them that. Nobody explained that, because like then nobody would move there, right? Anyway, the exorcism didn't work, and I'm not gonna say what happened, but it didn't work. So the little boy seemed to be cured, so they didn't have to unalive him. But what I think happened was that the spirit was still in the house. All right. So anyway, they move into the house. Everybody picked their rooms. At this time, I think this was like a 2-3 bedroom. So, and then a room in the basement. And all the older kids got to pick their room first. My dad wasn't the oldest, so he was the youngest. So he got last pick at the room, and he was told he had to take the basement. So my dad took the basement. No cap, real story. My dad took the basement. In this house where they supposedly had done exorcism on this boy. All right. Well, the story goes that my grandmother used to have get-togethers a lot over at the house, because it was a new house, you know, for them. So they had the family come over. And the family would come over, they'd play dominoes, they'd play, you know, cards. But my uncles, my aunties, they all explicitly remember saying strange things would be happening inside this house. Like stuff where you put it wouldn't be there no more. You'd hear voices at night, like scratching on the walls. You'd hear like, you know what I'm saying, stuff that was just like eerie. You'd hear eerie stuff, but they didn't think too much of it. Well, come to it, my uncle is needing a place to go. So they invite him basically into the house, like, oh yeah, you can stay with us, right? And throughout his stay there, at first everything was cool. You know what I'm saying? Like a regular uncle, everything was cool. And then as my dad said, he was in the basement, that he would hear things, see things, and he felt like the house was haunted. And one day, I believe that he said he was talking to somebody down there that was a spirit. He was talking to a spirit. And the spirit said that he was, you know, because my dad was the youngest, he never really got to make his own decisions. He always had to do what the older kids told him to do. So the spirit was like, I can let you be your own man. Like, you can be grown. And at that time, you being a kid, you know, you want to be grown. You want to, like, be able to do your own thing with nobody, like, telling you what to do. But his room was in that basement. So he said that he was talking to a voice down there, and the voice made a deal and was like, if you want to be grown, it's like, I can make that happen. And so I guess they made the deal. They made the deal. And he didn't tell nobody about it. Well, time goes on, and he started, you know, like, being comfortable living down there. But everybody else would still think that weird stuff was happening. They're like, why is this, why, you know, crazy stuff happening? And pretty much one day, my uncle started exhibiting like signs of like behavioral problems. Like the little boy, he'd just get mad for no reason, just be lashing out at everybody. You know what I'm saying? He would be like screaming in his sleep, like having nightmares, right? Having issues, having nightmares. And people was like, you know, thinking he was crazy. He did used to drink, you know what I'm saying? But I think he started drinking more when he started having these nightmares. Remember, everything else was fine at first until the nightmares started happening. He started hearing voices, and they got suspicious of him, because they was like, certain occasions, like back in these days, you could have guns, right? And it wasn't no thing to see anybody with a gun. You just be like, oh, they just got a gun. Similar to how it is now, kind of. But the basically, they used to catch him on occasions where, like, I remember my dad said he came home one time with his friend, and he was coming home, and he opened the door, and he had a gun aimed at him at the door. I was like, oh, you ain't supposed to be bringing people to this house. But like, my dad like live here, like he can bring friends to the house if he want to. You know what I'm saying? And he would pull guns out on people just randomly. You know what I'm saying? Just like start acting crazy, like not mentally there. Well, the story goes that one night my grandmother and them was having a get together with my aunties, cousins, and whatnot, and she was having some yard work done in the yard, and my uncle had previously been like acting crazy, so my dad and his two brothers, they took all his guns. I'm talking about he had all types of guns, what rifles, pistols, shotguns. He had all these type of guns. So they took them and they put them in like this lock chest and locked it and hid the key and then like wrapped it with a chain. Well, they did that because they was like feeling like he wasn't mentally right. Something was going on. He was acting strange. He pulling guns out on people. So they felt like to protect themselves, just put the guns up, you know what I'm saying? No big deal. And then boom, just happened because it had happened too many times. Too many times. So they like, fuck this, we gonna put them up. So that's what they did. They put the guns in the chest and they put them in the basement. In my dad's room, they put them down there. So the story goes that one day my uncle Gene comes in and he just looked sick. He looked like he stressed out. He looked like he just not himself. And he was always looking like not himself because like he just looked like that. But he looked it like he was stressed. He looked like he was sweating, all this type of stuff. Like he was possessed. He couldn't sleep. He was drinking more. They was still hearing these noises. So he went to look for his guns, you know, because he used to be a hunter. So he'd go out into the woods and like the back and, you know, like hunt squirrels or rabbits or deer. Now, I remember down the street from this house is a cemetery, like this way. My dad used to walk through the cemetery with his brothers to get to school. And that'd be like the hangout spot for kids back then. They'd go hang out at the cemetery, smoke, do whatever. Well, my uncle came home one day and was looking for his guns and got upset that he couldn't find them. So he looked around the house. My grandmother was having a get together with the family and stuff, and everybody was over there. And, you know, people was like, you know, seeing him and they like, yo, what's going on, Uncle Gene? And he just like really like not there. He, you know, worried about finding these guns. So people didn't, they like, oh, whatever, we finna finish playing dominoes and playing cards. So that's what they did. And then he ended up going into the basement and found the chest. And he found the chest with the guns. And he found the key and unlocked the chest. Now, my dad and them didn't just take the guns and just put the guns in there. They took the guns apart. So they took them apart piece by piece and broke them down. So you'd have to actually put them back together before you could use them. So he ends up putting them, taking the chest back upstairs, I guess, and putting all the guns back together. The pistols, the rifles, he put all the guns back together. And I think he was like drinking. But he was having these issues where he would be yelling at stuff like, leave me alone, like, you know, and whatnot. But nobody, you know, nobody really knew what was going on because they didn't know about the house and what had happened here. So he ended up putting the guns back together. And when he did, he came downstairs. No cap, he came downstairs. My aunts was at the table, my grandma was at the table. He came downstairs with the shotgun, right? And boom, boom, and just start shooting everybody. Everybody. Don't care. Just shoot everybody. So boom, he starts shooting the family members. At the time, like I said, she was having some yard work done in her yard. So the gardener was in the house. I think they was like giving them a plate of food or something to drink. So boom, they came in and he witnessed what happened. So he see this. So after he finished shooting people in the house, the gardener tried to run outside. So he chased them outside. Boom, blew him away. Nothing left. You feel me? Gardener laying down on the grass, out of there, right? Unalive. He go back into the house to finish the other people in the house. And he take out the pistol and he start pew, 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 pew. Everybody, pew, 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 pew. Everybody, right? People didn't really have time to react. So it's people that's shot, it's people that's laying on the ground. And the story goes that my aunt, to this day, she still got the hole in her hand. He was such a good shot that she reached for the doorknob to try and, like, when she was running towards the back door, and she reached for the doorknob and she turned the handle, and he shot through her hand. So to this day, she got a hole in her hand like this. You feel me? And as young kids, we used to be like, why she got the hole in her hand? But nobody wanted to really, like, tell us really, like, how she got the hole in her hand until. So boom, he ended up shooting her, but she ended up getting away. But everybody else in the house, including my grandmother, didn't get away. He came downstairs, he emptied a whole clip into my grandma's face. So unalived her. She was already pretty much when the shotgun hit her, but then came in like over it. So basically what happened is my dad was out at a party at a club, and he was at the party at the club, and my uncle, who was one of the first ones to hear what happened at the house, went looking for him to find him. He eventually found him at this club, and it was like he didn't really want to leave the club. You know, he was like, you know, having such a good time, you know, and my uncle was like, nah, bro, we gotta go. He was like, man, I ain't trying to go. He's like, man, I'm gonna have a good time. And he literally had to drag him from the club. And nobody else was at the house except the people who were supposed to be at the house. The kids wasn't there for whatever reason. They all was doing their own thing, maybe at their girlfriend house. But the only people was there was like the mom. His mom was my grandmother. My aunties, couple them was playing cards. Uncle Gene and the gardener, which was like a regular thing for them to just get at the house and play cards, dominoes, do some yard work, you know, and, you know, just talk stuff, listen to music. Well, they end up hearing what happened. So my uncle tell my dad, nah, we gotta go. It's about mom. My dad kind of had this look like, what? So when they start pulling up to the house, they start seeing like the ambulances and the sirens and the police and everything, right? And he see his mom, my grandma, being brought out in a body bag, and he had to identify her. They say when they brought her out, her leg was like this around her head because the shotgun had blew her leg off, and it swung up around her head. So they had her, she was about like this big when they ended up finding her in pieces, right? So boom, he had to identify the body. The trauma that came from that, right? But remember what I said in the beginning about the house and the extras, and they didn't know why he just went crazy. So when they brought Uncle Gene out, he kept yelling, oh, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. It wasn't me. And in a way, the family believed that it wasn't him. They believed that it was something else that had did that, right, in this house. They believed it was something else. So that leads me back to this. So they end up taking him away. When they took him away, the police, they really didn't do what they were supposed to do. So I had tried to find out some more information about this, but remember, the family never wanted me to talk about this. Nobody ever wanted me to talk about this. They was like, bruh, like, I asked my uncles, I was like, tell me what really happened. And I was on the phone with both of them, and he was like, told one uncle, well, tell him, but don't tell him everything, right? So no cap. So everything happened how it did. So a couple, I think like last year on her anniversary of the day she passed, I was trying to find out when she was only 45. She was only 45. She wasn't like an old grandma. She was only 45. So I tried to do some research and kind of find out what was going on. And basically what happened was the police, when I tried to call the police station to find like an obituary, there was no obituary. I checked the newspapers. There was no information in the newspapers. I checked, you feel me? I checked the national database for like stuff like this, and there was no information. So I'm like, I'm typing in people's names, and it's like they just been erased. Like these people just been erased. Like, so I'm like, how is this? So I tried to find the grave site where she's supposedly buried. And bruh, like, there is a grave site there, but we don't know what's buried in that casket, because they couldn't open the casket because it was a closed casket, because there was nothing left to show. Leg torn up here, no face, all that was gone. So, true story. So basically, I went to try and find out some more information. So I'm calling people. I called the police station, and the police station, when I called them, it would just ring. It would just ring. I swear, I'm calling, and it's like, you've reached the St. Louis, County Deputy's Department. You reached the St. Louis County Deputy Department. I'm like, bro, why does it just keep doing that? It did that for like 5 hours. So I called again. Another hour, it just do that. You can't get to nobody there. But this was the county that made the report of what happened. So I'm like, damn, what's going on? Because I tried to look for her obituary. You can't find nothing about that. I tried to find some more information that you couldn't find nothing about this. I tried to find out about the gardener. It was like these people was just erased to like a cover up. And then I thought about it when, as I got older, they said that they took him to this mental hospital. So he lived the rest of his life out in this mental hospital. And they said that he would be in there like having paranormal, supernatural stuff going on, like, you know what I'm saying, talking to himself and but he was normal at first. And I think what happened was, for real. Like, I think what happened was the spirit that they tried to exercise in this house, it may have left the boy, but it never left the house. All right, this is what the hospital looked like back then. This is what it looked like. All right, it's called Lexington Brother Hospital. They end up changing the name of the hospital to like South City Hospital because it was getting so much attention for the exorcist, right? But I think what happened was they exorcised this boy in the house and they thought that it had left, but it didn't. It stayed in the house. So the people who owned the house knew that the exorcist happened here. You know what I'm saying? Because it was down the street from the cemetery. The story was known. The only people who didn't know it was my grandmother and the family, because they was just trying to buy a house. So they sold this house that had that spirit in there to my grandmother. And because she black, they don't care. They like, sold the house, kind of like whatever. And when they moved in, them things started happening where like they would be like sleep and they'd wake up and you put your books down. Now your books way over here on the floor, but you've been asleep. You know what I'm saying? Or you know what I'm saying, you put something somewhere and it's outside. And then at night you hearing people, you hearing voices like tormenting. And then when my uncle moved in, you start hearing it more. So the story goes that the entity made a deal with my dad to let him be his own man, basically, to get rid of everybody who had control over him. Which was like, mainly, of course, your mom tell you to do something, you got to do it. And my dad just really didn't like being, under nobody's control. And basically, that's what the deal was, for him to be free of anybody that could keep him control. Now, my dad was only like 14 at this time. And if you remember, the little boy who was possessed was right around 14, right? So how the story goes is that spirit couldn't possess my dad, but it tricked him into thinking he could have whatever he wanted by, getting rid of his parents. Oh, now you can stay out as long as you want. Now you can smoke. Now you can do this. And can't nobody tell you nothing, because remember, he was the youngest, 7 kids. So while all the older kids is out there playing with their friends and doing this, you didn't get to do that. So he felt like he didn't have no freedom. So the spirit was like, we're going to allow you to have freedom. They didn't say how. So they end up killing like 5 people that day. So I went and did the research on it. So I'm researching. I'm like, damn, like I can't find no information on my grandma. I can't find none of this information on the other people. Like, everything was hidden. And then, like I said, I called my uncles and I was like, y'all, like, what really happened? And they was like, well, tell them some of what happened. Don't tell them everything. I'm like, no, bro, tell me everything. And I still feel like they was holding stuff back. But yeah, basically that's what happened. He had lost his mind, bro, from being possessed, and started like just taking everybody out in the house. Boom, 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 boom. Kill everybody in the house. Kill the gardener. The gardener ain't having done do with the family. He's just over there cutting the grass and going in the house to get some water because he hearing these loud shots. He's like, what's going on? So he run in and see what happened. He see what happened. He trying to run out to go get help. Boom, he don't make it. I think it was only one survivor. That was my auntie, who still got the hole in her hand to this day. Now, the reason I'm saying this story is because a lot of people don't understand, like, as a content creator, as somebody that's trying to change a lot of things in my life, I got stuff that really happened, bro. Really that took place that is no cap, is real, and it's to the point where if you deal with me, bro, y'all supporting somebody because I'm the only one that ever wanted to talk about this, bro. You know what I'm saying? So I'm finna make not only a documentary, y'all, but I'm writing a movie about this. Right? I'm writing a movie about this because I have to. I gotta write the movie about this, bro, because it's so crazy that it lines up with what happened in The Exorcist. So I'm telling y'all this because this is real. And I never got to meet my grandmother. She passed away at 45. So at 45, her life was taken by my uncle, who was possessed by a spirit that was in this house from a failed exorcism that happened to that boy. And when I say like this is for real, I'm telling you like this is like ain't no cap, bro. You ain't seen me crack a smile. I'm telling y'all this is for real. And it sucks because I feel like me talking about it is gonna like I'm telling y'all this before, like, you know, ain't nothing gonna happen to me, but I feel like they would try to have something happen to me if the internet figures it out. So I got some names, I got some things I'm gonna look up on the internet. Y'all can look it up if y'all find something. My grandmother's name was Rebecca Burns. So I typed in Rebecca Burns, bruh, into Google. And you could type in anybody's name in Google. If they ever lived, bruh, if they passed, they usually got like something. Nothing came up. I typed in information about that hospital and who all the residents, because at the hospital, they got to keep a list whoever was in that hospital. I didn't find nobody. Basically, like it's like they erased the hospital. They erased the list of the people who was in there. All that was gone. No cap. So I'm gonna be enlisting the help of the internet and those people that's watching this, that see this stream, that see this story on TikTok, whatnot. We need to figure this out because I need to have closure about this because it seemed like nobody else want to talk about it, and I feel like this is something that needs to be talked about. You get what I'm saying? Because eventually, like, I'm gonna make this into a movie because it has to be, bro. People gotta see this in real time, bro. From how I'm visualizing in my head and was told, bro, that it's gotta be done. So, end of the story, my dad lost his mother at 15. At 15, he was now grown, basically, because could nobody tell him nothing. He ain't had no mom. Dad wasn't there, so he could do whatever he want. My dad ended up moving, you know what I'm saying, at 15 and doing whatever he want. You get what I'm saying? But the family always like would try and like when I ask about my grandmother, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, she passed." And I'd be like, "How?" And nobody wanted to say. So it took some digging and it took some time for me to find out because that wasn't just my dad's mom, that was his brother's mom, that was his sister's mom. So I tried to ask them. And it goes that my auntie, she cried every day for years. Every day she cried for years because this happened to her mom. Every day. Couldn't get her to go to school, couldn't get her out of bed. She cried every day for years. The story goes that after this, my uncles and stuff, they start like, you know, trying to move away from the family and, you know, like put the past behind them because they knew, they all said that, bro, in this house, all type of crazy, strange things would happen, and they just didn't catch it in time to where they might could have prevented that from happening. You know what I'm saying? And they used to walk through the cemetery. They used to, you know, go through the cemetery to get to school. But the location of this house is the house that I believe that they took this boy to, had the exorcism. They thought it worked because he was like, "Oh, I'm cured," and he was talking normal and all that. But I think the entity just left him and stayed in the house. So when they sold this house, the entity was still in there, bro. And that shit took the life of several family members, bro. And I wanted to come and talk about this on live because I'm gonna post this because I really don't get it, bro. I did so much research, bro, that I could not find nothing, bro. I called the county where the arrest was made, and no arrest record. I called the hospital where the bodies were taken, no record. I called the mental hospital, no record. It was like everything was just wiped. Now, bro, this is a time before you got like internet how it is now, bro. So to wipe some information like that, bro, it had to be somebody like up high, bro, that didn't want this story getting out. or didn't want this to turn into something else. And remember what I said, they closed the whole hospital wing down where that boy did the exorcism at. The hospital and the church closed it down to where nobody could go in there because staff was still seeing stuff happening in there, even though they thought it was over. Stuff would still be happening to the staff waking up, you know what I'm saying? They got cuts on them, or, you know, they seeing people floating in the hallway, or they seeing shadows, bro, that's still moving. No cap. So all this shit happened in real time. So I'm calling, like I said, I couldn't get no, I called them, that police station, bro, like 5-6 days in a row, bro, the same thing. You can't even leave a message, because I was trying to leave a message like, hey, I need some information. It's just, you reach the Sheriff County Department of St. Louis, woo, woo, and then it'll just start ringing again. You reached it. I'm like, bro, am I ever going to reach something? So I couldn't get no information from there. Went in Google search. Couldn't get no information from there. It's like they literally wiped everybody that was in this house that died. Everybody that was attached to what happened in this house, gone. Now, the crazy thing is, this how the house looked to this day. This how this house looks to this day. Nothing changed, bro. They didn't move no trash. They didn't nothing. This is how this house looks to this day. To this day. You get what I'm saying? But I did like a Google satellite, and I looked around. This is the only house that's still like this. All the other houses have been rebuilt. All the other houses have been rebuilt. Yeah. My grandmother and several family members were murdered in this house by my uncle. So you gotta rewatch the whole live to you know what I'm saying, get a better glimpse of it. But yeah, so I did the Google search, I did the 360. So I looked around and I'm like, bro, every other house is like modern and updated. Like, you know, like it looked like a nice house. It's only this house. Even the houses next door is updated. Even the houses next door is updated. Like, no cap. Like, real talk. So, what I'm telling y'all is, this actually happened, bro, to my family. This hospital is haunted. The place where the exorcism occurred happened in this hospital. It happened in that house. And I think my uncle was possessed by that spirit that they thought they got out the little boy. He went and killed my grandmother, the gardener, aunties, uncles, everybody that was in that house that day except for one. And I asked her, I think the family asked her, and she didn't want to talk about it, but she was the only one that was able to escape and call the police, or she would have been gone too. And I think they said, like, when the police came, they had him in handcuffs, and he was like just looking like not like himself, and he just kept yelling, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. They made me do it. It made me do it. As he just kept saying, I didn't do it. It made me do it. And they realized all the stuff they had been seeing in that house, stuff just floating around, and you're like, then you look back and it hit the ground and noises and stuff. They realized that because that house was haunted and that they were never gonna get rid of it. So we gotta also make note that my dad's bedroom was in the basement, which is where they actually performed the exorcism. So that means if they thought they got rid of that spirit and they didn't, and it just stayed, and they was like, oh, this cool, I'll just stay in here, because anybody technically that would move into that house, the spirit could just mess with. So, y'all, this is a true story, bro. I'm telling y'all, I'm writing a movie. I looked up the street. Rosebud was the name of the street. And I looked up the street, bro, and that's the house that's still there to this day, bro. Nobody's bought that house. Nobody has sold that house. Nobody lives in that house. It's just there, bro. Because after this happened, I don't think they could sell it. They could not put it on the market, because you can't put that house on the market and, bro, 5-6 people died. You can't put that house on the market and 3-4 people died in that house. Who's gonna buy it? Who's gonna live in it? Then you can't do that after, before the people died, the house had an exorcism. Who you gonna sell it to? So, y'all, I'm trying to figure this out. I need some help, because I've been looking. I've been trying to, like, get some more information. So, like, true story, y'all. Make sure y'all hit that sub button, hit that like button. I'm going to start doing more investigative stuff as well, like in regards to, he said, wait, housing cars are, bro, I'm telling you, they not. I'm telling you, they not. They not going to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to post this video, bro. We're going to try and see if we can get, you know what I'm saying, some more information. Because like I said, I tried last year I'm gonna try again this year, bro, to get as much info as I can and stuff. Because, bro, this is a true story, and nobody wanted to talk about it. No, like, bro, you can't bring this up. You bring this up, and people just be like, we ain't talking about that. And you be like, why? You be like, why is we not talking about this? Things happen and things happen. You be like, why are we not talking about it? And they get mad at you. And literally, like, you wouldn't be part of the family. You wouldn't be part of the family. I don't know, yeah, I'm still thinking of it, but I'm reaching out to, like, you know what I'm saying, directors and stuff, because it's a true story. And I really just want to get more information in regards to it. Bruh, ain't enough sage to burn, bro. You had Catholic priests, bro, come in and do all the exorcism, bro, burn the sage, read the Bible, holy water, all that, bro, in that house before. That's not gonna do nothing, bro. That house is just like a site. But they also say that house was built on an Indian grave site because the graveyard, but they say that's all Indian burial grounds in that area. Those is all Indian burial grounds, even at the cemetery. Though it's another cemetery below that cemetery. So there's an original cemetery, and then there's the new cemetery that they built on top of the Indian burial grounds. So technically, it's two cemeteries that is on the other side of that house. Right? I'm gonna put the image back up. So on this side of the house, down this way, it's a cemetery you walk through to get to the school. But the new cemetery, Indian burial ground, they just put it right on top of each other. So it probably is like, bro, a lot of just in this area, and nobody talks about this, bro. Nobody talks about this. Yeah, I'm thinking about it, but you know, as a content creator, bro, I had to realize, bro, as I'm talking about how scary this is and how real this is, I realized that, bro, it's truth. It's not like made up, bro. This is like really, bro. I lost my grandmother at the age of 45. I never got to meet her, bro. We lost several family members, bro, because of this, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? And nobody wants to talk about it. Everybody's, you know, afraid that word to get out and, you know, whatever. So, like I said, I done tried. I done tried to look up. I done tried to research. And I just keep finding nothing. So I'm gonna keep researching. I'm gonna keep trying to find out. Y'all let me know, bro, like what y'all think. Y'all let me know if y'all go ahead and do y'all research, bro, and y'all check it out. Like I'm saying, y'all could go do the research for yourself on the Alexian Brothers Hospital. You can type that in, type in the Exorcist. It'll bring up all the information about that. That is the same hospital. Bruh, I'm talking about, bruh, electricity going out, bruh. Cabinet doors swinging open, all that type of stuff, bro. All that, for real. So I just had to let this be known because I couldn't sit no more and be like, oh, I'm a content creator. I'm somebody that, and one of the things that's real to me, I couldn't present that. I feel like that wouldn't have been authentic, and I'm being authentic, and I'm presenting this and letting this be known to the world that, bro, this actually happened. I'm actively trying to figure out much information as I can, so I kind of need the internet's help on this. The internet figure out everything, bro. The internet figures out so much, bro. And I was like trying to do this by myself, and I was like, bro, I need to reach out to the people on the internet, bro, and see if we can, like, you know, piece this together, because this really is something that happened, y'all. And I hope that people, y'all watch this live stream. I hope that y'all go back and watch this video, and the information that's contained in here, y'all can help us, like, clarify. All right. So with that being said, I know what happened. Bro. That spirit never was exorcised. That spirit was too strong. And because they tried it one time with the spirit of that boy and where he originally lived, where I think it was like Virginia, and then they took him to Washington, D.C. to run tests and whatnot. And then they took him to this hospital in St. Louis, and he was still acting the same. He was still speaking in strange languages. Like, he was still waking up with cuts and marks on his body, and nobody could explain it. And they exorcised him at first in the hospital, and they thought everything was good. But then it wasn't, because he started staring the same thing. So they was like, well, we're going to try it one more time. And I believe they took him to that house in that neighborhood, bro. Because originally in that neighborhood, it was like only 1 or 2 houses. It wasn't that much people. So if you did do something to somebody where it was a lot of yelling, nobody would know. And it was right down the street from the cemetery, so that make a good, you know, hey, something happened, just drop the body right off at the cemetery. They call it a day. And they sold that house to my grandmother because of her wanting to be a homeowner and provide for her family and have something that to this day, like, you know, should still be something we cherish, you know, having a home. And but all that got disrupted because there was an entity in there, but it took the life of all the people in that house. True story. And like my Aunt Theresa, my Aunt Maddie, nobody that I've asked, bro, wants to talk about this story, bro. They brought priests to the hospital and all that, but they weren't able to do nothing, so they just closed it down. They just closed off the hospital. They closed off the wings. They closed it, and then they demolished it. They demolished the hospital and rebuilt it, and rebuilt a new hospital on the same grounds. They demolished the hospital and then rebuilt a new one on the same grounds. This is what it used to look like. So this was when it was first built. And then over time, they demolished it. You can type it in, bro. Alexian Brothers Hospital. I'm going to move out the way so y'all can see. Y'all can see right there. It should say Alexian Brothers Hospital. Real story, y'all. Haunted. But I think that not only was that haunted, I think that the spirit that was so strong that you couldn't exercise it, bro. When they did it in that house, it just stayed in the house. It was like, you know what? I'm down the street from the cemetery. I'm just gonna kick it in the house. And that spirit stayed there until my dad and the family moved in. And like I said, my dad was young then. And I think that a deal was made with that spirit. I don't know what the deal was for in exchange for, but I know what was told me was that people wanted to be free. They wanted to have nobody with control over them. And it goes that he had to give something up for that. And the spirit said that it wanted a soul. And it wanted the firstborn soul. I'm the firstborn from my dad. The firstborn. You get what I'm saying? From that, yeah, in there. Like, I'm the firstborn out of the family that's actually connected. Yeah. You get what I'm saying? So I'm trying to like put this out, but I hope that people take this and see what y'all can find. See if y'all can help me find out. If y'all do, bro, let me know. I'll post what I can post. Y'all send me stuff. I'm gonna try and look it up. Because I don't know at this point, bro. I done did a lot of research and I'm gonna do some more because I'm not just gonna let this story just pass, bro, and just go down, bro. It's been like enough time where people should have been talking about this and should have been trying to heal. And the thing is, nobody went to therapy after this. Nobody went to a therapist and they sat down and was like, so how do you feel since your mom and other family members were murdered by your uncle? Nobody went to therapy. Nobody went to therapy. Everybody just went on like about their life like it didn't happen and try to put it behind them. So yeah, bro, that's what we was talking about today, man. I'm finna get off here real quick because I really want to try and find out some more information and see what I can, you know, find out on this, bro. But like, yeah. So this from Google. So yeah, paranormal reports that say for decades following the 1949 event, hospital staff and patients reported sustained hauntings in the psychiatric ward. Accounts included screaming voices, empty rooms, objects moving on their own, and unexplained apparitions. The specific room where the exorcism was ended was eventually sealed off and became inaccessible. The wing where the events occurred was demolished in 1978, and the broader site underwent several transitions, eventually operating as St. Alexius Hospital before closing permanently in 2023. All right. Appreciate you for the sub. So, the boy and the pseudonym, which is just a name they gave him to protect his identity, later identified as Ronald Hunkeler, was brought to St. Louis by his family to seek spiritual help after displaying severe, inexplicable phenomena. Led by Jesuit priest Father William S. Bowden, the intense rituals took place at a home in Belle Noire, a St. Louis suburb, and were finalized at the Alexian Brothers Hospital wing. Told you it took place at a home in Belle Noire. That was their home. The conclusion: on April 18, 1949, during a violent episode at the hospital, priests reported hearing a distant voice commanding the demonic spirit to leave the boy. The teenager awoke and stated that the entity was gone. No cap. And this you can type in on Google, the Alexian Brothers Hospital in St. Louis. And this is this is what actually made the movie. But did y'all see what they said right here? They took that boy to a home, bro, in a county where nobody would really, in a St. Louis suburb where nobody would really know what was happening, bro, because it would cause too much attention, bro. And I'm telling you, that place that they took him to was this house. This is where they took that boy. And that spirit was still in that house, bro. That spirit was still in the house. And this is the house my grandmother and those family members were killed in, bro, by my uncle. So yeah, y'all make sure y'all check this out, bro. See if y'all can help me figure out some more information. But this gotta go somewhere. And this just goes to show that family, bro, sometimes like have deep dark secrets, bro, that they hide for real. And until like somebody that's chosen comes and speaks about it, until somebody that's chosen comes and, you know, steps into the light and shines light on what happened, bro, people will continue to try and hide stuff like that, bro. I don't know why, but maybe like nobody really wants to like the truth to get out, but the truth gonna get out. The truth gonna get out. Y'all, appreciate y'all for watching, man. I'll be back. I gotta go do some prayer. I gotta like kind of figure this out, and you know what I'm saying, we'll see how this shit goes. So yeah, shit crazy, bro.